YouTube channel. If you don't know me, my name is Hanadi and I am a final year medical student. And today I want to talk about something that I have been wanting to talk about for a long time now. I am less than a month away from finishing my last ever rotation in medical school, so I wanted to talk to you guys about how you can make the most out of your clinical years. And this is perfect if you haven't started yet, or you have already started your clinical years and are wondering how you can benefit the most out of these 2 years. So this video is going to be divided into 2 parts. I'm going to tell you guys everything that I do at the hospital and then everything I do at home to try and study for clinicals. So first of all, I'm going to start by talking to you guys what you can do at the hospital, and this is going to be divided into 3 parts. The first part is how you are going to deal with your team, so your team of doctors, your team of nurses, residents. The second part is going to be how to deal with patients, and the third part is going to cover how you can make the most out of studying at the hospital. I have my tea here, so grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's talk about it. Starting with the first part is how you can deal with your team of doctors. And now I'm going to be talking about when you have an ideal example, when you have a team that is ready to make you feel included and ready to give you a lot of teaching time, because unfortunately a lot of the times it really isn't that way. However, you can still make the most of it. The number 1 tip I have for you guys is that first impressions really do go a long way. That being at the hospital a little bit earlier and showing them that you're there truly makes them believe that you are interested in learning and putting the work in. Most of the times departments are going to have morning meetings to basically discuss the cases that they have in the wards for that day or any admissions that happened overnight. I think if you can go, of course if you are allowed to, it truly gives them the impression that you are there to learn. You can learn a lot about the patients you're going to see for the day, and also you can write down any questions you have about their patients, about the management, that you can ask the doctors later on. And why do I think this is important as well is that sometimes the rounds can be quick because they have a lot of patients, might not have a lot of time answering your questions in the rounds. So I think that having a good overview on the patients and the types of cases in the wards beforehand gives you a good idea on what you're going to see, and maybe gives you a little bit of time to try and read up on whatever cases are there in the wards. So that would be my first advice. It's time to round, and if you guys are not in clinicals yet, rounding is basically when you have patients that are staying at the hospital and the whole team would go by patient, see how they're doing, see if their management needs to be fixed, if they're ready to be discharged home. So all of these decisions can be made right then and there. How you can make the most out of your rounds. See this happening a lot with medical students is that they will usually stand at the very end. I know that it can be intimidating, but you are there to learn. So make sure that you go up to the front, you listen to what the doctor has to say, you listen to how the doctor communicates with the patient. Most of the time, the doctors are not going to perform a thorough physical exam just because of the limited time that they have. But if the patient does have a finding, you can, for example, have a quick listen to their lungs, you can palpate their abdomen, etc. And even if you don't have the time to examine the patients right then and there, you can always write down their room number to visit them later on, and I'm going to talk about this in the second half. Don't ask the doctors questions when you are in the patient's room. If you step out and the doctor has, asks you if you have any questions, etc., then you can ask them, or you can just save them till the end of the round. Sometimes teaching hospitals will have doctors that already have a list of topics prepared to teach the students, but most of the times the doctors don't have like a ready set of topics to teach the students. So what I recommend doing, check what's in your curriculum and to write down just a couple of topics that you would like the doctor to explain. That way, if you have a dedicated teaching session, or if you are even sitting in the clinic with the doctor, it's a good thing to have the topic prepared just so you can discuss it in between patients. And you can even read a little bit about it beforehand just so you are not completely clueless when it comes to discussing it with the doctor. When it comes to surgical specialties or any specialty where you can do procedural work, definitely ask if you can help. Ask if you can help, ask if you can assist. Not many doctors are going to ask you, hey, would you like to join me, or would you like to assist me? You have to step out of your comfort zone and you have to ask. Even if you are unable to help or assist, ask them if you can join, if you can observe. This not only shows them that you are interested and that you are willing to learn, but it also really helps you as well. And whenever the doctor sees that the student wants to learn, they are going to put in more effort to learn, and I have seen this happen before. The second point I have for you guys is how to be with patients. I believe that truly the basis of clinical years are for you to try and perfect your history taking and your physical exam. An example that I can give you guys, my first ever rotation was gynecology, and in the first half of my sub-rotation I was placed in a hospital where I was the only medical student there. So it was very much intimidating, but I was very determined to practice my history taking. So what I would do is you would go up to the wards if you want to practice your history taking, especially when it comes to new histories that you really aren't used to in your preclinical years. Those would be histories like gynecology, for example, or pediatric. So what I would do is go to the wards, I would look at the cases that were not really complicated, just so it would be easier for me to take history from as I would practice. And I would just go up to the room number and then I would knock the door, I would introduce myself and who I am, and would say that I just wanted to have a little chat with them and take a short history from them, if that was okay. Always ask the patient if you can go ahead and take the history right now, or if they would prefer you come back after 10 minutes. Guys, I was probably never rejected to enter and chat to the patient. If they were not ready, I would just simply come back after 10 minutes. And I know that this can be intimidating because you would feel like you don't know what to say, but guys, this is the perfect opportunity for you to practice because you don't have an examiner, you don't have a doctor over your head. If you get stuck, you can simply crack a joke or two, or you can even ask a few questions about their personal life if they don't mind. Imagine that you're having a simple conversation. Imagine that you have a family member that is sick. What would you usually ask them? And guys, definitely my first 2 or 3 histories had a lot of missing information, but that is how I got better. The same thing goes for physical examination. You can go with a friend, you guys can guide each other. You can even ask to go with an intern or with a resident for them to guide you through the process, but that is again the only way how you're going to get better. Another point regarding the history taking. With history taking comes how to present a history. So what I would do when I would finish taking the history is that I would go to the doctor and I would ask them if they have a few minutes of their time for me to present the history to them and what feedback that they can give me. And guys, the first couple of times I did this, I had so much to correct, I had so much missing information. But again, that is truly the only way that I can say I am fully confident with my gynecology history taking. It's because I did that. So generally, patients are really nice. Nowadays, patients are more accepting of students being there because they know that we are the next generation of doctors. They want us to learn. So as long as you take permission, you are respectful, you read a little bit about the case before you go in, because of course you don't want to be completely clueless. The third thing is if you want to study at the hospital. What I can recommend to you guys is that the common cases are always common no matter where you go. So on whatever rotation you're on, make sure that you start off by reading the common cases. Make sure that you have a good base of them, because that way you're probably going to have a lot of these cases in the wards and you're going to be familiar with how the patient presents and how you can manage them. You're not going to be asked about rare cases, and even in the exam you are least likely to get a rare case and be questioned on it. A good resource is Amboss, so you can have Amboss downloaded on your phone, on your iPad. Honestly, just skimming through the disease enough, being at the hospital, or even watching a video. For clinical videos, you can use things like online med ed, but really you can even go on YouTube and just look up the name of the disease, and then you can watch a short video on that while at the hospital. Another way that you guys can learn from being at the hospital is going down to the ER. Even if you are not on your emergency medicine rotation, you can definitely still go down to the ER and learn a lot from there. So for example, if you are on your gynae rotation, you can go down to the ER and ask if they have any gynae patients, Same thing with pediatrics. Usually what I have experienced is that emergency medicine doctors are really willing to explain. Even if they don't have the time to do so, they are willing to have you there, to join them, to observe from them, and you can even take histories from the patients in the ER. And I think that's great, because usually with the patients that are already in the wards, the patients are not in acute presentation. But when you take a patient from the ER, they would be in acute presentation, and you can see how the disease actually presents. Long story short is that there is always something to do at the hospital. You just have to dig for it. No one is going to hold your hand and tell you, come with me, I'm going to teach you this, come with me, I'm going to teach you that. Of course, this does happen, but it is rare for it to happen, especially when a hospital is super big and super busy. So you really need to make the most out of it. Clinical years are all going to depend on you. If you are willing to learn, if you are dedicated, and if you are going to put in the work to learn, you can go to any department and you can find something to do and someone to learn from. Even if there is no one there to teach you, as I said, go and talk to the patients, go and examine the patients, go read about their case, look at their files, see how the doctors managed them, see how their vitals changed. So that is what I have to say from how to make the most of your learning at the hospital. Now let's talk a little bit about how the studying goes on outside of the hospital. That shift from preclinical to clinical years in terms of studying really did freak me out a little bit, just because in preclinical years I was studying so much more. In clinical years, it is mostly learning on how the patient presents and how you can manage the patient. So honestly, I would come back home and whatever cases I have seen that day, I will go ahead and read up on them. If I have read a little bit about the cases at the hospital, then what I would do at home is solve some questions. And I think practice questions are great. I will be honest, I do take practice questions more seriously as finals come. However, I think that if you can do practice questions even when it's not final season, that would be great. Just because practice questions are not only going to prepare you for the exam, but they're also going to teach you what you would do next, what would be your next step. And I would also solve questions from AMBOSS. You can even do UWorld. Any question bank that you have that is going to help you, I honestly think that is the most efficient way to study. Case exposure has to already have been at the hospital. Even if not, don't waste a lot of time reading on the subject. It is better to watch a video or read a little bit about it. So an example I can give you guys is for my internal medicine rotation, I used a book called Step Up to Medicine. It is straightforward, to the point. It gives you everything you need to know about the disease within a page or two, because sometimes I would think that even the AMBOSS articles would be a little too long. Keep in mind that it is totally normal if you do not have the energy to study after a long day at the hospital. It's totally normal if it takes you time to settle every time you switch from one rotation to the other. That is all for this week's video. I hope that you guys are a little bit more oriented now, or have an insight of how I have been going through my rotations. I know that it is impossible to cover everything in just one video, and I probably missed a few things. So if there are any extra things that you would like to know, or if you would like me to go into a little bit more detail of how I study, please let me know in the comments below, and I can for sure make a part 2 or another video on that. But that is it for today. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure to press the thumbs up button and subscribe to be notified whenever I post next. Thank you guys so much for watching till the end, and I will see you guys in my next video. Cheers!